Nothing but good things should have come from these two films. Ridley Scott's unsettling 1979 thriller Alien and John McTiernan's 1987 film Predator. They're both excellent science fiction romps, and while I prefer the incredibly haunting atmosphere and tone of Alien, you really can't go wrong with either one. So how those two movies have spawned so many abysmal sequels and spin-offs absolutely mystifies me. Nothing but good things should have come from Alien and Predator. Yet what came from Alien and Predator was Aliens vs. Predator. Talk about the severed head falling far from the tree. Now, fortunately, this game is much better than its namesake, but even that only manages to make Aliens vs. Predator decent. Even average. One might say mediocre. Of course, one might also get his spinal cord ripped out. Aliens vs. Predator is essentially 3 games in one. You can play as one of Scott's Aliens, one of McTiernan's Predators, or an unlucky space marine who happens to be caught in the middle. And no matter which route you choose, each character has its own campaign mode. And each campaign is, both literally and figuratively, its own beast entirely. The Space Marine campaign is perhaps the simplest, and incidentally, the least interesting. It's essentially just a standard first-person shooter in which you control a rookie soldier trying to survive an extraterrestrial onslaught. Now, the problem is that in this case, standard translates to paint by numbers. It's extremely generic in terms of both design and gameplay, doing very little that hasn't been done by 1,000 other FPS games 1,000 times better. But what the Space Marine campaign does do well is create atmosphere and tension. Unfortunately, its cookie-cutter gameplay is a bit less interesting. But if nothing else, the other two campaigns are at least interesting, and the trickiest of the bunch is the Alien mode. Now, in this campaign, your greatest assets are speed and shadow. You sneak through the darkness, darting across ceilings and floors and walls to swarm your enemies with surprise melee attacks. But you know, attacking a human who doesn't even know you're coming should be a lot more satisfying and, frankly, a lot more fun. The first-person melee mechanics are a bit crude and unrefined, and that really puts a damper on the Alien mode. Not to mention the game's third mode, which happens to be the best of the bunch. The Predator mode is perhaps the most complex Aliens vs. Predator has to offer, and incidentally, it's also the most fun. By almost blending elements of the other two, you get a somewhat traditional feel of the Marine campaign, but infused with the extraterrestrial twists of the Alien mode. So when you're playing as a Predator, you use both ranged weapons and those powerful melee attacks, using stealth to hunt your enemies and sheer power to absolutely destroy them.
It's here.
Now, the folks at Rebellion Developments were obviously ambitious in regard to making the game's distinct characters actually feel distinct, and to their credit, they really pulled it off. Aliens vs. Predator does a great job of feeling specific to each species, from their abilities to even the mood of their campaigns. For example, Marines feel a lot weaker than their alien foes, and the dreadful atmosphere of their claustrophobic levels conveys what they should be feeling very well. In addition, the aliens are fast and sneaky, and the Predators hunt with ruthless efficiency, only the game itself is far from efficient. Now, it's not that the game is doing anything poorly, it's just that, apart from some occasional atmosphere, it doesn't do anything great either. When the game's mechanics aren't derivative, they're clunky. And when they're not clunky, they can just get a bit boring. But perhaps the best aspect of this otherworldly package is the multiplayer. The game includes 6 unique multiplayer modes across 6 maps, offering up to 4-player cooperative play and lots more online. Of course, the selection of maps and modes is relatively thin, but Aliens vs. Predator does succeed as a solid little multiplayer game.